Hello. Now, I think this might be the first video of this type that I've done, and so I find it very interesting. Now, the chap that I've interviewed is Hamish Robertson of the Watch Collectors Club, and I didn't know that much about it before we actually had this meeting, and I must admit I really enjoyed meeting Hamish again, and I found what he said, the information about the Watch Collectors Club, very interesting, and I really liked his story, the journey, how he got to the Watch Collectors Club. Anyway, it's a bit of a long one, I do apologise. In about halfway we have a little coffee break, something like that, so it's in two parts. I found it very interesting myself. I thought Hamish was a great guy, and I really enjoyed meeting him again and the video myself. So Hamish, it's very nice to see you again. And I've actually only met you a couple of times, and each time I've thought, gosh, Hamish is so interesting, and I'd love to talk more about watches with you. And so here we are. Mm-hmm. Now, I think for people that are watching this, sometimes people like to know where you came from, maybe what you do for a living, how that links to wristwatches. And I suppose that was my initial interest and the thing that made me, because when you mentioned that you are the founder of the Watches Collectors Club, and you're on Instagram, and you're on, you have a website, and all Hamish's details I'll put below in the video. So what we're going to chat about is, I want to know more about Hamish, so we're going to hear about Hamish right now, but then we're going to, Hamish is probably going to explain and talk to us about the Watch Collectors Club that I find very interesting. And also, I suppose, I am interested in you as a person, mm-hmm. why you like watches, and perhaps we can, talk about why watches, because I suppose they're an odd thing. Why do people, why do we? Now, I'm wearing an Apple Watch, people. I do apologise. In fact, there's a reason I'm wearing that, but I will take it off right now. So the Apple Watch is down. I do have my Frogman with me, but Hamish does have some G-Shocks here, so we are going to come to them. Now, so Hamish, first of all, please tell us about you, whatever you feel comfortable, but I'd like to know about you from a young person, perhaps the work that you did you go to university, and then what took you into an interest in watches?
Yeah, well, thanks very much for this opportunity. We've been trying to find time to do it for a while now, so it's great to be here, and I'm delighted to tell you more about my collecting journey and why that's led to me working full-time in the industry and building the Watch Collectors Club. So I always wore a watch. I was one of those kids and teenagers that had a watch on, Timex Ironman, the classic, first on the Velcro strap with a grey and blue dial, but a digital watch, of course. And then I had an Oakley watch, which irritatingly I threw away because they're very collectible now, and I can't remember which model it was.
But was that made by Oakley?
Yeah, so they actually did a huge line of watches in all their funky 90s designs, which is what makes them so collectible now. Right. And this was a digital watch. I remember it was black with an integrated rubber strap. Yeah. I thought it was the coolest thing ever when I was 16. But unfortunately, while doing a house move in my 20s, I just found a old watch with the battery dead and binned it. Oh, gosh. For my 18th, I got a Tag Heuer Professional from my parents. Yep. Steel, quartz powered, lovely black dial. I thought it was the perfect mix of sort of sportiness, but not too ostentatious because I wasn't interested in that. Wore the hell out of that. Through my student days, it's got all kinds of dings in it. I've still got it, obviously. Fantastic watch.
You still got the Tag Heuer?
Yeah, okay. Yeah. I mean, the bracelet's worn and rattles around. Yeah. I mean, it's just a classic, well-loved sort of first luxury watch. And I was very proud of it. And then I had a bit of spare income in my 20s, like a lot of people who get into watches. They maybe start earning some money and they think, oh, what shall I buy? And I just knew I always liked watches. And I think the reason is because watches are jewellery for men. I mean, there is no denying that. Men have a very constrained set of opportunities in most men. I mean, some communities are a bit different in terms of the jewellery people wear, but most men, including me in my life and where I've lived in Edinburgh and London, the watch is it, really. And so I was really interested in the Swiss watches and the brand Jaeger-LeCoultre or Jaeger-LeCoultre. I'd always loved the Reverso, the classic, now seen as a dress watch, originally seen as a sports watch, or developed as a sports watch for polo players. But at the time, in my mid-20s, my surplus income did not stretch to a new JLC Reverso. So I went on eBay and thought, what can I find on eBay? And there were loads of JLCs.
Okay, so hold on. We've got to eBay. I've got a Tag Heuer, and so at this point you're in your 20s, and you're working in finance.
I was a financial analyst. Yeah.
Okay, right. So so just for this is really for me. So you were young. So the interest in watches came from when you were young. About what age?
I think I probably got that Iron Man when I was 12 or 13.
Okay, so you're a young chap, you had the Iron Man, and then you went from the Iron Man to...
the Oakley watch.
To the Oakley, and then you went from the Oakley to the Tag Heuer Professional. Right, so at this point, you've gone from Iron Man, Oakley, Tag Heuer Professional, working in the finance industry as an analyst, and then you're in your 20s, and then we get to eBay.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me what happened then.
Well, I realised that eBay was completely chock full of pre-owned, pre-loved and vintage watches.
And what year roughly was this?
About 15 years ago.
Okay.
So 2010-ish. Yeah.
2010-ish, right.
11.
Okay.
Yeah. But I wasn't, I hadn't gone out and read loads of watch magazines or anything like that. I literally just sort of started wondering about JLC and
JLC.
Yeah, and found an eBay chock full of old JLCs, basically.
But what I really love about this is we've gone from a Timex Iron Man to an Oakley watch to a Tag Heuer Professional, and you're in your 20s. Then you come across eBay. And because earlier you mentioned JLC, the Reverso, and I think that is so cool that that your watch journey. These are my words. So you've arrived at eBay. So we're about 2010-ish, and you come across a JLC Reverso. Okay, because the thing is, I think this is such a cool watch, and I know a little bit about this story. This is so cool. Carry on.
And then I bought what I actually bought, because I was only brave enough to bid on something I thought was still, expensive and luxury, but a winning bid of £550 for a men's steel time-only JLC round cased from the early 1950s with a slightly damaged sort of Art Deco style dial.
This was the Reverso?
No, this is a round watch.
This is a round JLC, right?
Yeah, completely unremarkable in every way, apart from the fact that I thought it looked very good and it was affordable. Yeah. So I win that, and then I bought another one, a gold one this time, again on eBay, and then my mum bought me one.
What was it? Was it solid gold?
Yes.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
Okay.
But still under £1,000.
Wow. Today, what are the value of those watches?
The same.
Oh, okay.
Maybe a bit more.
Yeah.
But this is the thing. This was my learning from just straight trawling around eBay. Is that there is an entire history. The entire history of the watch industry is kind of on there. Yeah. And most of it is very, very good watches for very reasonable prices.
Yeah.
And obviously some incredible bargains, like later on I got a great Omega bargain and things like that. So that's where I started. Then, obviously with that hobby, I just, as a thing, I started doing a lot more reading more about the brand and getting into the watches of JLC in particular. And there were other brands that I liked. So as my vintage watch collection grew, I added 2 Breitlings, for example. I added 2 Rolexes. I added this watch here, which we can come on to.
Okay, so what's the time frame here? You're still in your 20s. Are you still working full-time as a analyst?
So the collection where I was buying the most vintage was from 2010 And then it really accelerated when after I moved to London in 2015.
Right. Okay. So when you came across your first JLC, you weren't living in London.
No, I was still in Edinburgh.
You were still in Edinburgh. Okay. So you come to London, and you've moved. So you've acquired a gold version of the JLC that you had, and okay. And now you're in London. Okay. Carry on.
Yeah. And so I was in my new office, my new job. And I hadn't been there very long. I was wearing one of my vintage timepieces, and this guy stopped me and said, "Oh, what's that on your wrist?" I said, "Oh, it's this JLC." And he said, "Oh, well, I'm a big fan of watches, and I've been collecting, and I love it." And so that guy, we made friends over talking about watches. He was on a different team from me, but on the same floor, and he became the co-founder of the Watch Collectors Club, Ed Hawkins. We've been good friends ever since.
And his first name is
Ed.
Ed.
Yeah.
Right. So you met Ed. So this is 2015-ish.
Yeah, 15, 16. Yeah.
You're in London. You met Ed over your JLC watch. Okay. So around then, when did you start the Watch Collectors Club?
2020.
Right. And where did the idea to create that club come from? Was it when you met Ed, or was it?
Yeah, so Ed said, "Have you ever been to a watch meetup?"
Right.
And I said, "No, what's that?" And he said, "Have you ever been to a brand event at one of the boutiques?" I said, "No." So he took me to my first watch meetup. He took me to my first brand event.
Right.
And I was like, this is brilliant, because I got to meet lots of other watch enthusiasts. I got to learn about different watches I'd never seen before. And at the brand events, you sort of get the fancy boutique experience, and you know, whatever the theme of the event is, they present their watches, or they have an ambassador talking. And I liked that as a thing to do. I thought this is a brilliant way to explore this hobby and learn more about watches.
Right. So you attending watch events. What I'm seeing is that it gave you the idea for you to create your own collectors club.
Yes, because crucially we thought that a lot of the watch events we went to could be a lot better.
Right. Okay. And okay, that's interesting. I have been to some watch events, and some have been very good actually, and others. Okay, right. So you and Ed have set up the Watch Collectors Club. If you had to say what's different about that to other clubs, what would you say?
Inclusivity.
Okay, so you think you appeal. Well, you're hoping, and you've created something that appeals to all watch collectors.
Everything we do is designed to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah.
To enjoy this hobby and enjoy watches.
Right.
So we want to break down the barriers that prevent people from learning more.
Yeah.
Even if it's as simple as someone on their own might not be confident enough or even interested enough on their own to go into a Bond Street boutique.
Yes.
But if you come to one of our events, you can come with us.
Yes.
You can come with a group of people.
Yes.
And we'll make sure that you have a good time. So our promise is whatever we're doing, whether it's an event that's open to all or an event just for club members, I mean, we have different types of events, of course, big, small, all different kinds of event. Our job is to make sure that you feel that you've had a great time. So we also actively host our events.
Right.
So lots of watch meetups happen all over the world, and they are fantastic. And the watch community is incredibly friendly. It's one of the most friendly collector communities out there. But at our watch meetups, we will make sure that you are welcomed personally. We host our meetups. We'll make sure that you're whatever you're into, we try and connect you with if we know someone else already that might be interested in the same thing. So that if you come along and you are, let's say, a G-Shock collector, and you're not actually that interested in pre-owned vintage JLC, that's absolutely fine. If we know of other people who are there on the night and they have an interest in more modern watches, including G-Shocks, we'll say, oh, by the way, have a good time, see what everyone's bought. You might be surprised at what's here. And don't forget to chat to that fellow over there who also likes G-Shocks.
See, I can relate to what you're saying because even just recently, I was listening to a podcast by a blog to watch, Ariel Adams, who's a chap I like, and he was interviewing someone, and I forget the chap's name, but he's a lovely chap. But when he went to a boutique on a main high street, he felt very intimidated, and so I find that very interesting. But I'm sure that he said even though going to the boutique was very intimidating, he actually ended up buying the wristwatch. And I thought to myself, I imagine many other people have that experience, because I must admit, when I've been into some very fancy high-end brands, yes, you do feel a little bit out of place. You feel a bit self-conscious. So what you've just said, I think people, and perhaps people watching this, can really relate to that, because if you do have an interest in wristwatches and there is a barrier to that interest or hobby, yes, I can probably see that it might be, hold on, I'm not going to go onto Bond Street or into a high-end boutique because I'm going to feel a little bit out of place. And can I go to this watch event where I'm expecting everybody to wearing APs and Rolex, and I might be into this micro brand or a G-Shock, and I'm just going to feel out of place. So I can really relate to that.
And it can be simpler than that. So we've done over 150 events of all different kinds now, and we've had all different people come from different backgrounds and different types of collector and different types of enthusiast and different types of reaction. But it might not, someone might be totally confident to walk into even the most luxurious boutique. They might be wealthy enough, but they might actually not know the brand very well and just not know what to talk about. So someone might say, God, I've always wanted to learn more about Bulgari's watches. And in London, we're lucky enough, we have what Bulgari called the Temple, which is one of their flagship global stores. When you walk in, all you can see is jewelry, and of course it's very expensive. It's very big, literally. And the watch room's at the back. And it's beautiful. It's an amazing space. Anyone who's interested in watches should definitely go. It's a fantastic experience, beautiful place, fantastic line of watches, lots to learn about. But if you don't know anything about the brand, and you've got to get past millions of pounds worth of jewelry, you've got to find someone who's free, because they might be knowledgeable, but they might be busy serving someone else, to start talking. So we like to say, look, we can make it even easier by saying, if you come to one of our events with somebody like Bulgari, we'll be there, we'll have a theme for the event. Which watch are we going to talk about? Why are we talking about it? Oh, usually because it's something interesting they've done recently, but perhaps not. We might talk about some of their previous work. And then that also takes off the pressure of going in, completely cold and not necessarily knowing what you want to see. Of course, lots of people, they want to go and see a particular watch, they know where to go, they go and look at it, they have a marvellous time, they may or may not purchase the watch, of course. But we're there to do that little bit more. If you're not sure, if you don't know anything, if you always wanted to know more, and even if you're just an aspirational about the watch industry. So we do a lot of stuff about high horology, which I don't have any in my collection. I'm not wealthy enough to have bought any real high horology, but I love learning about it. And so we go and we're lucky enough in London and in our stuff we do in Switzerland to see some, frankly, insane timepieces in terms of complexity or finishing and craft. And again, it's all about learning and making that journey easy, and then doing it with a bunch of people who are, fellow enthusiasts as well. That
can relate to you and you can relate to them. So you're offering a very, I'm about to say you're offering a new approach. I don't know if another watch collectors club does something like this, but I can imagine, now we're talking about it, and because of that podcast by a blog to watch I've listened to, and because of my own experience a little bit, because before I came out as a watch enthusiast, I must admit, I never told people because I thought that it made me look a geek and ridiculous. Actually, that brings me on to something, because we have some of your watches here, But first of all, you keep touching on things that I think to myself, wow, that's interesting, and maybe I'll open that up. But have your friends, have you always told people about your enthusiasm and your interest in watches, or did you keep it a secret? Or when you were 12, 13, did people know that you liked your Timex?
No, I don't think they did.
Right.
And I don't think when I started buying those, like collecting in my 20s, I don't think I sort of trumpeted it to everyone. I just did that classic thing of hoping people would notice and ask me about it.
And so did that happen? I imagine that was your situation up until your 20s. In fact, it might even be your situation today.
It's not my situation today. I mean, I've been doing this job, so I'm much more clear about trumpeting things that I've bought and I'm excited about to everybody. But we also appreciate that it is a niche hobby, and there's a perception of it which is very unfair, because it isn't that nerdy a hobby at all. We think that people should be helped to talk about their watches, but we recognise that if someone has a partner or a family member, there's no reason they should get excited about someone that you purchase, and so we provide a bit of a home for people to be excited about their purchases. That's kind of why we wanted it to be a community.
Oh gosh, because if I can just interject here, do you know that today, if I'm in a social setting that isn't watch related, I never talk about watches, and I certainly don't show people my wristwatch. That's probably strange, but in context, I find that chatting about watches is likely to happen, because you will say, "Hey, show me what's on your wrist," and someone is more likely to say, "Show me the watch that you've got." Okay, but before, I think my point is, in actual fact, here I am chatting to you, and you've said a couple of things that have instantly put me into a corner where I'm thinking, oh gosh, yes, that is so obvious, I wasn't thinking about that. And maybe I am still a closet watch person myself, because so many times I'm out in the wild wearing a G-Shock or an Omega, and I don't necessarily ever mention the watch at all, unless someone specifically says, hey, what are you wearing and why are you wearing that? So that is rather interesting. Maybe I'm still a closet watch enthusiast, even though I've got this silly this video channel.
I think it's about anything is like this watch, which we can talk about in more detail later, which is moon themed. There are far more people interested in space than there are in watches. And I don't really wear this enough, because if I wore this around, if I had to think about what should I wear today, I'm meeting up with such and such, and I knew they were a space enthusiast, I should wear this, and then I should show them. I should be like, oh, you like
Hamish,
space, this is a moon themed watch. And they would be excited by that.
Hamish, I've got to say, when you pulled this out in the kitchen, and hopefully you can see that. So this is the Casio, but this is a gold version. I believe it's limited edition, and it is a gold moon face Casio, and it's even got a hammered texture on the bezel and on the dial. But when I saw that, I thought to myself, that is so badass and it's so hip. That is a hip G-Shock, and I do like G-Shock, and it made me chuckle. And I don't know if you can, hopefully you can see that, but Hamish, I'm not joking. That is something I would wear, and in fact, I have a square that's very similar to this. But I must admit, when you pulled this out, I thought, wow, that isn't a watch I thought you would like.
No, me neither.
But you have it, and right. So tell me how you got this again.
Because I don't know how many years ago now, I was looking for a watch that I needed. My excuse to buy a new watch was I wanted something to swim in.
Right.
And then I was thinking about G-Shock, and they released this. So I've been sort of idly thinking about G-Shocks and baby Gs, and the reason I had to think hard is because to me at the time this was a huge watch, because I was mostly wearing vintage watches that are a lot thinner, and more delicate. And I just thought my wrists can never have a big heavy watch. I don't want a heavy one.
Yeah.
And then they released this.
Pause. That there is a universal Genève. Now, we'll come to this in a moment, but I know that some watch guys are going to think, wow, what's he got there? Okay, back to the square.
And this was a big deal for G-Shock, because this is the original size and shape of the very first one.
Yeah.
But they decided to make it in steel for the first time.
That's right.
Before then, it was only in the rubber cases.
Yeah.
And put it on a steel bracelet, which by the global standards of bracelets, which are not easy to get right, it's a triumph of a bracelet.
Yeah.
And it was playing into this boom that is still ongoing of making just integrated steel sports watches across the whole industry.
Yeah.
And then they put the updated module in it, which again, the most important thing about that is you can connect it to your app and it's solar powered. So you get the sort of whole works. And I thought, God, that looks cool, but it's going to be too big for me. So it was about a couple of weeks after it came out, I finally got to go to the boutique in Carnaby Street here in London.
Yeah.
And it was literally, as soon as it went on the wrist, I was done. I was just like, oh my God, that's not too big. I'm having it. So then he sized it for me. Yeah. And I took it home and I was just like, this is amazing. And I instantly swam in it. I still swim in it today to time my swims. And I was suddenly like, I can wear big, steel, heavier. Yeah. It's not too flash, it's not too heavy, it doesn't look ridiculous, and it doesn't hurt my hand.
But do you know, that is, this is a very big deal for Casio G-Shock, because this is their first full metal square. When it came out, it was about 2018. Yeah. Because I also got one of these, and this watch is actually responsible for a renewed interest in wristwatches. And I actually have a story and a journey that probably comes back to this exact watch. Mm. So when you pulled this watch out, and I thought to myself, hold on, I'm talking to someone that is that must see things the way that I see them. You know, I mean, if you see my other videos, you will have seen this metal square. Mm-hmm. Because it features a lot in my videos, and but when I look at it like this, it doesn't feel like it's my watch. It feels like it's your watch. Right. Isn't that interesting? Yeah. Because I have the same watch, but this doesn't feel like it's my watch. Yeah. So that is rather interesting. Okay, so
and then just to finish the answer on this, because I was on the mailing list, you then get all the they do. I don't know, 3 or 4 limited editions a year, if not more.
So hold on, you got that first?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
And then I saw this, they trailed this in one of their marketing emails. Yeah. And I thought, how funny would it be? Because I was much deeper into the watch world then. I knew way, way more about watches, including the huge unimportant stories about moon watches, including from Omega and other brands, and Breitling and things like that, and the importance of space watches. And I thought, how funny would it be to have a moon watch from like a completely random brand like Casio G-Shock, and then I saw this insane bezel. So the thing that makes this watch stand out is we've got this polished, so this is coated metal, it's not anything expensive, and then they've just managed this, not only this stamped moon surface with all these craters and things, but then they've made that matte, not polished, so you get this amazing contrast. Now they've gone to town because you've got this sort of speckled dial, which is also supposed to mimic the surface. And then not only that, but they put a map of the moon on the back just for good measure, which is engraved, and you won't be able to see that, but we can have a close-up photo. Yeah. But and it's to celebrate a Japanese moon mission. And I just got it, and then instantly I was like, is it going to be too much? I'm not a man, as I said. No, I don't wear gold jewelry. I don't wear flash clothes or shoes. Is it too much? And I just thought, no, it works. And so again, but that's part of my collecting journey. My collecting journey is to go from buying something in steel to trying something in 18 karat to staying small to then thinking, no, I'm going to try this thing as a sports watch. I'm going to use it to swim, but hang on, this is really comfortable. It goes with everything. And then finally I take this huge step of buying something big and gold and shiny, but because it's got this sort of mad moon theme, that really helped me. Yeah. And again, I've hardly worn it the last couple of years for whatever reason. It's been hidden in the back of the safe, and I wore it all day yesterday. It's great.
But do you know, today with what you're wearing, it sort of does match your outfit.
Yeah, they goes with most things.
But if I saw you walking down the street wearing that, I'd think, gosh, who's that badass? It definitely would project a vibe. It really would.
It does. I mean,
yeah.
Look, anytime you wear a big gold watch, whether it's gold-coated steel like this or it's an actual gold watch, that's a very specific vibe. And everybody else will see that as a vibe. Now, they will see this as a G-Shock, not a Rolex, of course, because G-Shocks are pretty recognizable. No one's going to rob me for this, for example. But yes, any man wearing a large gold watch, it's a vibe. But what's fun about G-Shock, one of the many reasons it's so successful, is it can go with kind of a lot of different things and suit a lot of different people.
Okay, I mean, because you've mentioned G-Shock, you've got me all excited, and I feel I could go off at a tangent right now. But let's for a moment just because on this table we have two other watches that keep grabbing my attention. So talk about these two. Which one do you want to talk about first?
This is the Universal Genève Uni-Compact, and it's dated to the early 1950s. And this is sort of takes me back to my collecting journey, because one of the first meetups I went to was a long-running meetup in London. It's finished now, called Time for a Pint.
Time for a Pint.
And I met a couple of quite keen Universal Genève collectors, because I'd never heard of the brand, because the brand is dead. It's a dormant brand until its relaunch next year.
Yeah.
So they haven't been producing many watches for the last 25 years.
Wow.
But they produced an enormous number in the middle of the 20th century, most of which were chronographs, like this one. So this is a 2-pusher chronograph. Has a minutes counter subdial, but no hours counter.
Yeah.
And I just really liked the brand. I really liked the affordability of the vintage pieces. I liked the reputation they have. And I liked this because for the time, which is again early 50s, it's quite big.
Yeah.
As a men's watch and quite easy to read. And I saw this at an auction. So I went to Watchers of Knightsbridge, which is a dedicated watch auctioneer based here in London.
Yeah.
And I bought it very excitingly at their auction, and again, absolutely delighted with it.
How long ago? What year?
So this must have been 2017, 18.
So not too long ago, really.
No.
And can I ask how much it was, or maybe?
I think it was around £2,000.
Wow. I have to say, it does. I know the Universal Genève fans. Perhaps you're going to light up when you see this watch, because, and then when you find out it's from the 1950s, it is rather cool. I mean, it does look like it looks a special watch. I'm trying to find the words. I mean, look at that.
And I think what won't be visible on the camera, but hopefully with a close-up, it has this incredible dial patina.
Yeah.
So it's got all these sort of a very even patina of small dots. And I've spoken to a lot of people, because I'm lucky enough to meet lots of people now who are actually experts in this kind of thing. And the consensus is it's actually a bacterial growth that will have been caused at some point when some moisture got in. And that's why it's so even. But it creates this kind of almost speckled effect, and it just makes it even better than the sort of standard faded dial you might expect. So really delightful watch. And yeah, I mean, it'll be a very long time till that leaves my collection.
It's being a chronograph, I suppose my favourite mechanical watches are in the chronograph direction. I can see wear on this watch, but the wear is actually creating intrigue, because I'm assuming that the crown there is showing the base metal, but it matches the patina of the dial. So this does look a very cool watch, and I imagine that watch experts out there, when they see this on your wrist, do people come up to you and say, "Hey, I like your Universal"?
It's very subtle.
Yeah.
So when it's on the wrist, it's kind of not that easy to see what it is.
No.
It's kind of a little bit generic vintage chronograph, because that's what it is. It's not. There's nothing special or luxury about it now or when it was sold. But when they get a chance to really look at the dial, people love it, just like I do.
Because do you think that would have been silver? when it was born, the dial, or because the patina, the colour of it is magical.
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah,
it might have been a bit more silver. Yeah, it's hard to know.
Yeah, because imagine if that was remade today like that. That would be a hit.
I mean, potentially. Today, everybody makes the lugs a lot thicker, right?
Yeah.
So mid-century lugs like this are quite thin by modern standards. So even anyone who reimagines their heritage watches for today, like let me see Breitling reimagined watches, and the cases are a lot thicker.
But this is exactly the chronograph. And the dial and the way that looks, if that was modernised and remade today, that would be straight up my alley. I would think, oh, that is cool. Gosh, okay. So you pulled that bad boy out of the bag, but this, tell me about the next one, because this has got my, I don't know anything about it.
So again, the next stage of my journey, which is a journey many watch enthusiasts have gone on, has been since I started the Watch Collectors Club and started doing this full-time, because I'm full-time running the club, and just spending so much more time in the watch world and becoming aware of the world of micro-brands.
Right.
And micro-brands, roughly speaking, are small brands that have set themselves up in the last 15, 20 years or so. Yeah. And often they're just set up by one person with a vision to create their own watch.
That's right.
If they're successful, that can grow into a much bigger brand, like some very successful ones we could name, or the person is able to sort of keep a day job and keep plugging away. Yeah. And they mostly come from people who have this real vision, and this is a good example of that, because this is the Isotope Mercury Shadow. All right. An Isotope is run by a guy called Jose, and he's been running it 15 years. And this watch was 6 years in the development. Gosh. And his vision for the watch was a dress watch, which this undoubtedly is, that was entirely mirror finished. So the first one, which is just called the Mercury, was indeed entirely mirror finished. So every single thing is fully polished, including on that one, the dial. Now, to get slightly technical for a moment, if you are going to mirror polish a whole dial, and you had it flat, it would look completely wrong. So what he had to do was create a dial that was curved both that way and that way. And part of that is because he wanted a curved case. Yeah. But if he hadn't have done that and developed that, it would have looked all wrong. So this watch is curved everywhere. Even the case back is curved.
I did notice that, yes.
So obviously the movement is not curved. The movement is a upgraded Perso movement. Right. So he upgraded the jewels and upgraded the escapement. But everything else, manual wind, everything else is custom. And then what's, the sort of, the hands are stunning, but the logo is the Isotope logo, which is this famous droplet shape. Yeah. Just instead of just putting that on, he's made it look like a drop of mercury on the dial. Now, the reason I like this so much is not just because I just saw it and thought I need to check this out, but because to me, it's like the perfect modern dress watch. It's a company that's been working really hard to establish themselves, lots of design ideas, 6 years in development, perfect size for a dress watch, not too small but not too big, very affordable, because they're all sold out because it's a limited edition, but they were £2,500 plus VAT. So very affordable watch, and just a fantastic little piece of design. Now, what's interesting, and where I got lucky, is the Mercury came out last spring, so spring 2024. I saw it and thought, in conjunction with Revolution magazine in Asia. Yeah. Big success, sold well, and I didn't get a chance to see it in person all year. And so I was running the Manchester Watch Show in November, which we ran successfully, and Isotope were exhibiting. And I thought, perfect, I'll get to see it at the show and I'll buy it at the show. Okay. This is in Manchester. This is in Manchester last November. 2 weeks before the show, he comes out with this, the Shadow, with the matte dial. I get to the show, I'm able to look at them both, and I was like, I want the matte one. Which 2 weeks earlier, I didn't even know it was in development. He didn't tell me it was coming. Right. And so I bought this at the show. I was delighted to buy it at the show. Yeah. And it was just that sort of stroke of luck. All year I'd been thinking, I'm going to buy the Mercury. I hope they don't sell out. I want to see it at the show. Then I'll buy it at the show. And then 2 weeks, boom, this one comes out. And I'm like, no, I like that more.
But that is that's a nice thing about watches, and that has happened to me. I've been dead set on a watch. It's been expensive, so I've wanted to save for it. Time has gone by, and the brand has brought out another watch, and I thought, oh gosh, the money that I've saved for the original watch, I can now put into another watch that is so the process of saving helps you actually get the watch that you anyway. But there's something about the color of this, and I like the name as well, Isotope. That I have heard of before, and I like the way it feels. It has a nice feeling to it, and you mentioned the shaping of the crystal and the dial, and you can see it but you can see the shaping of the back, which is it's a nice attention to detail. I do like and I love the see-through case back there into the engine room. I love seeing the watch movement, and hopefully but I will take close-ups of these, and I can insert those images there. But there is something about the colour of this, that grey, silvery matte dial, and the polished detail of the hands and the second counter there. That does look rather nice. That is a very, very smart, very dressed. I'm using my words. I would feel very dressed up wearing that.
And I'm thinking of getting a black, crocodile strap to see what it looks like, really more dressed up. But I haven't got around to it yet.
So a black crocodile, of course. You see, the other thing about the colouring of this polished silver and grey dial, you can imagine that watch. And do apologise. It'll go with any. Always happens. It'll go with any outfit. It'll go with anything that you're wearing. Anything black, anything obviously grey, anything white.
Well, again, I'm just too busy to really think about straps, which I know a lot of people enjoy changing straps. So the other idea I had was similar to this in suede, but in a pink. So I could have sort of a pink suede for sportiness, and then a shiny black crocodile, high quality leather, or maybe maroon for dress. Because I've never had a maroon strap. So I was thinking, the ways to play with a watch design like this are so. I mean, there are, for many watches you can play with a lot of straps, but this one in particular I think it'll give me a lot of joy over the years trying different straps.
Do you know, as I've got the watch in my hand and I'm looking at it now, I really do like the shape of the case, because there is some detail in the design there. You can see that it has been thought about, and I love the polished shaping of every surface it appears. Now, what's the dimension of this? It looks about 38.
Yeah, it's 38.
Okay.
37, 38.
I would love this a little larger, but the size does fit it perfectly. But I was thinking, gosh, that could go to 42, no problem. And I'm just selfishly thinking to myself, if this was a chronograph as well, exactly that design. But with 2 extra registers, one for minutes, one for hour. Obviously I'm being, that's my, but this is very nice. And it's one of the things that I do like about microbrands. And so many times you might find yourself unaware of microbrands. And then when you do the research and you put in the hard yards of finding these, and then you come across watches like this that really have a lot to offer. And
that we as enthusiasts are blessed, because the microbrand industry is still expanding at an unbelievable rate. And we now hold these shows so that people can come and meet the brands. But it's just as fun for me, because I've got brands coming to my show in this November that I've never met and I've never seen in person. So I get to host the show and have to do all the hard work running it, but I get to see all the watches that are new to me as well.
And in actual fact, if you are a watch enthusiast, a watch fan, and it's your hobby, what a fabulous opportunity and situation to have. To be exposed to new watch brands. Yeah. You go to a watch event, you meet like-minded people, and you get to find hidden gems like this isotope. This is brilliant. I love it.
And I should just point out that because you're new to this watch, but what he's doing now is straw marquetry dials.
Right.
So he's taken this in a handcrafted direction.
Yeah.
Using a specialist straw marquetry craftsperson.
Yeah.
And that's how he's brought colour to the watch. And straw marquetry is reflective, so it's got this amazing sheen to it.
Yeah.
So Jose is taking this watch more into the dressy world with interesting dials. Rather than, as you said, what his long-term vision is for, I don't know, you'd have to ask him in terms of the size. But at the moment, what's amazing is he's choosing to keep it limited runs and really craft driven, and they're beautiful. A lot of them are very beautiful.
I'm very pleasantly surprised, and all this is on camera. And as I've been looking at it, thinking what questions I ask you about it, I'm spending a bit more time with it, and I'm actually liking it a lot more. And it really does feel a special thing. Anyway, it's. I'm
delighted to hear that.
Okay. So, we started at the age. Hamish was 12, Ironman.
Yeah.
We then had an Oakley watch. That progressed to a Tag Heuer Professional.
Yeah.
Then you're in your 20s. You stumbled across JLC. That is actually quite a nice watch journey. And I suppose, was my watch journey as sophisticated? It feels sophisticated that you came across JLC. And I've mentioned Reverso, and I know that you have many other watches. Do you have a Reverso?
Yes.
Okay. Because I think that is a very special watch, and I should have, if I'd known you had a Reverso, I would have said to you, Hamish, please bring your Reverso, but maybe another time. But you've just said something, limited edition. Now I suppose this takes our conversation this morning into a slightly different direction, and I'm just thinking, should we have a quick break right now and go to the bathroom, or should we talk about other aspects? So let's have a break right now. But before we have a break, let's just, because it sounds to me, what I like about this conversation with you is I have this lovely introduction to you and your club and how that was formed. And I suppose we can come back and talk a little bit more about that. But also, you've given us a very brief insight into your watch journey, and you've brought a couple of watches along today. And I mean, you can see that what I'm wanting to do is actually spend a bit more time looking at this one. And but I feel it would be very interesting to chat to you about the watch industry. And a little bit, and we can go off piste a little bit, but let's do that in part 2. And right now we'll go for we'll go for a loo break.
Sure.
Okay, cool. Hamish, so we had a quick break, and our conversation has been. It always happens. You come off camera. You put the kettle on, and you chat more about watches, and you think, gosh, this is so interesting. This is so interesting. And you think to yourself, why isn't the camera rolling? Maybe we should have done that. Anyway, but I thought in this video we could talk about what watches means to us. We could talk about the issue of limited editions. Maybe we can chat a little bit about what we know of the watch industry. And one of the things I am interested in is what you said to me about the Watch Collectors Club and your next meetup. And so in actual fact, let's start there. So when is the meetup? And yeah, you tell me about it.
So we are fortunate to be big enough to have meetups very regularly. Yeah. So, and events. So almost every week here in London, and some in Manchester. But the next sort of general meetup where you can come along and everyone brings their own watches. It's not at a retailer, it's in a pub, and you just bring along whatever you have to talk about, or you don't even need a watch. You can come and talk about the watches. That's in September. But what's really exciting is October's meetup. Instead of it being general, it's entirely focused on G-Shocks.
G-Shocks in October?
In October. So it's October the 14th in central London.
Do you have a venue yet?
No, not yet. But
Okay.
we don't publicise the venues, so you have to sign up for the meetup on our website. Yeah. And then the day before, we'll email you the location, and that's just for safety.
Yeah, and that's October 14th. The 14th in central London.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's if you're a G-Shock fan.
Yeah, whether you have any or whether you've always liked them. We did one with Swatch last year, and it was amazing to see all the different swatches that people brought along.
Yeah.
And the reason is because an enormous number of people have a G-Shock.
Yeah,
a lot of watch people just buy one at some point, or they get into them and buy a few, or people non-mechanical watch enthusiasts get into them. Yeah. And there are so many G-Shocks over the last 40 years. Yeah. It's just amazing. So I think what we want to see a really great variety, and that's what I expect will happen. We'll see standard ones, that are core range. We'll see hopefully some early ones. I don't know for sure if anyone in the club's got like first series or stuff. We once had someone come down with a watch box of the first 12 ever made. It was just amazing.
G-Shocks,
each iteration of the first 12. So it's the first 3 years of G-Shocks, and he'd collected them all very deliberately. Anyway, I haven't seen him for years, which is a great shame, but I did get to see that watch case of his.
Oh, wow.
So at the meetup, it'll just be for people who, again, they might not realise how many other people like G-Shocks. Yeah. And that's one of the reasons the club exists, is there are tens of thousands of people into watches. Yeah. And I say this to everyone. I say this to industry veterans. I say this to brands. I say this to marketeers. I say this to people starting up their own brand. I say 99.9% of watch enthusiasts have never been to a watch event. They've never been to a show, something in a boutique,
imagine that,
a meetup, because they've never been invited, mostly. So this meetup, our meetups are for anyone. Anyone can come along, whatever you're into. You just have to sign up on our website so we know you're coming, and we can send you the venue details. Okay. And then this G-Shock one is just to celebrate the G-Shock.
Okay, and just to remind, I will put all the links that we've referenced down below, so you can click on that and sign up there. But you've mentioned G-Shock, and you've mentioned most people have never been invited to a watch event. Mm-hmm. So I suppose what we are doing is we are raising some very interesting topics or scope of discussion around wristwatches, collecting wristwatches. Are you a normal person to like wristwatches? Is a wristwatch a thing today? Because a wristwatch is really a thing that tells the time. In the past, we didn't have smartphones or mobile phones, so having the time on your wrist had a utility, had function. But today, because it's a question that so many times I've had with other watch people, and once or twice I've had this conversation with a watch brand. Why a watch? Now, I have my own opinion why people wear wristwatches, but I'm interested. What's your opinion? Why do you think today people wear a wristwatch?
I think it's mostly as a piece of jewellery. Okay. So, to your exact point, all watches started out as tools. Yeah. People needed them. Yeah. And then they gained in popularity, they exploded in design. After the First World War, men started wearing them, because before that was only women. And then the watch companies innovated different tools. So if you look at the 20s and 30s, there was huge innovation in complications and different dial utility of different dials. Innovation in waterproofing, innovation in luminous material, innovation in visibility. And then after the Second World War, where the development of military watches was very accomplished, we then saw the development of watches for things like diving. But what happened in that whole time, pretty swiftly. So from 1920 to 1930, the sale of pocket watches and the sale of wristwatches like create an X.
Yeah.
And they crossed in terms of volumes sort of towards the end of the 1920s.
Yeah.
And wristwatches were then the thing, the tool. And what it allows men to do is say something about themselves. So what am I saying with my collection? Well, when I wear something vintage and sleek like this, I'm trying to say that I've, taken time to research this, to make this stylistic decision.
Yeah.
These are the things I like. This is a look that I want. Similarly, but as we talked about earlier, if I go for the gold, I'm saying, this is a bit flashier. I maybe want people to notice it, and I want people to think, is that a G-Shock? Oh yeah, it is a G, and it's shiny. And what's that one?
Because so this is just my view, but when I see you wear that G-Shock and I see you wear that Universal Genève, so the exact same outfit, the exact same clothes, so this is me. So this is obviously in context and specific, but the G-Shock makes you look different, and it makes me think, you might be a music producer, you might work in the film. There is something very cool about you. But then when you switch that for the Universal Genève with the chronometer, it changes the maybe it's because it's in context and I'm a watch fan, so it's triggering other associations, and I suppose today wearing a wristwatch is probably a statement about you. I suppose I should qualify that. Because many times I have been asked, why wristwatches? And actually, because we had this conversation downstairs, I don't necessarily tell people that I'm into wristwatches or that I have a YouTube channel. I know that's a bit strange, and I need to work that out myself. But I really do like it when a person wears a wristwatch. But I think what's happening is the reason I like it is because I find it interesting, and I'm subconsciously judging them. Now, I don't know if that is a good thing or a bad thing, but definitely when you had that gold G-Shock on, moon gold G-Shock, and you switched it for the Universal Genève, I had two different versions of you, which is crazy, because you are the same person. But for me, being a watch fan, it's also providing this really nice interest. You've just said you think it's one of the things you think is that it's a piece of jewellery.
Yeah.
Now, I think a wristwatch is a piece of jewellery, but I also think it's a piece of artwork. It's either technology artwork or it's mechanical artwork. But definitely the word artwork is a thing, and jewellery, and also a statement. Because when I'm by myself, many times I wear my gold G-Shock Square, and I instantly feel a bit ridiculous. And then I'm walking down a lane, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, and I love it. I think this is so cool. It matches the grass, it matches what I'm wearing, and it's big and gold, and it makes me feel happy. Now, I can relate that to this full metal square, or one of the watches that you brought, and there's a story there. But just to explore what you said there, so you think they are just jewellery? Do you think that they are personal to you, or do you think they are actually explaining things to other people? Do you agree with what I've said, or do you have a different view?
No, I think that they're incredibly important as objects when people are making that conscious choice or subconscious choice. And I think the thing we haven't talked about at all in this conversation is the value of brand is way higher than most people think as well. So we're talking in the watches I brought today. This one is unless you're really into vintage watches, you won't recognize it. And so the look, it's more about the look that I know people who aren't watch people will see and maybe think. G-Shock is a recognizable brand, and these are recognizable shapes. So I might hope that people see it as a G-Shock and think, as you said, that guy might be cool or a bit fun or whatever the brand association of G-Shock. But if we talk about the most famous brand of all, Rolex.
Yes, okay.
When somebody wears a Rolex, whether they're given it, they save up for a decade to buy it, they're very wealthy and they can just buy it any time they like.
Yeah.
However they get their Rolex, they find it. Sometimes it happens.
Yeah.
They know, because of 100 years of incredibly good brand marketing and popularity, let's not forget, they're very popular watches for a reason, because they're good, mostly. Everyone who puts one on hopes, maybe, that other people will know it's a Rolex that they're wearing. And,
that's interesting.
And they like that fact.
Okay.
Because if they didn't like that fact, they wouldn't wear the watch. They wouldn't say, actually, Rolex isn't for me, I don't associate it with it, and I'm going to, so I'm not going to wear it, even though I have the opportunity. And so everybody, because everybody is status, has status is important to them, even if they don't consciously think it. And the only people in the world that status isn't important to are have to join really unusual communities, like becoming a monk or something, right? So, or maybe some other communities. But with watches, one of the things that, to me, makes, as well as the craft, the technology, makes them so much a piece of jewelry, is that role that everybody's putting it on is consciously or subconsciously making a point about status and the status they want to display.
Right.
So the same way that Bill Gates wearing his Casio, not a G-Shock, but a Casio his whole life. I think I'm right, he wears a Casio.
Yeah, he does.
Is a status point for Bill. That's his personal choice, fine. He's decided to wear a watch and he's wearing one that anyone can afford. And that's a choice. I have a range of watches, I can wear them all for different occasions.
Yeah.
All of my choices, unbeknownst to me, involve a status decision. That's what I think. And the same would be true for you. However, you didn't like that fact, I believe it would be true of you.
Okay. So no, I'm happy to accept that might be the truth, actually, but I think. Because what's so interesting is, on the odd occasion, someone has said to me, why am I not wearing a Rolex? Why am I not wearing a Patek Philippe? Now, I don't know if they understand how much Patek Philippe's are, but I suppose Rolex is in the realms of possibility. And I felt, and I think I answered their question, why am I not wearing a Rolex? And I think my initial response was, because I prefer wearing this G-Shock. And I wasn't being funny or trying to be funny, but it was the truth. Because I've actually gone to a Rolex AD maybe more than once, a few times, to actually buy a Rolex at retail. And each time I've literally been in the AD and I've thought, I think this is too expensive, and I'd rather buy an IWC, and I've walked out. And then I thought, oh gosh, that was an opportunity to buy a Submariner. Well, it was actually the Sea Dweller that I wanted, but and then I moved on. And so I suppose it is rather interesting, because Rolex is a brand, is perhaps one of the most world's well-known brands of watches, and so I think Rolex does feature as a popular, as a big. It's a thing worth talking about. So you think that someone wearing a Rolex is a signal of status?
Always, because of the scale of that brand. That's why it's such a good example. Because the Rolex is so big a brand globally that almost everybody has heard of it, even if they wouldn't know what one looked like. Right.
Okay. A number of times, someone has said to me, Stephen, what watch should I get? And this might have been a female, and every time I've said the same thing. I've said, get a Rolex or a Cartier. And they've said, oh, which Rolex? And I said, the small one, and I think it's called a Datejust, with the Jubilee bracelet. And they've said, oh, what does it look like? And I've shown them, and they've either said that that looks pretty, or they've said, that looks old-fashioned. And then I've said something like, it doesn't matter. It's such a well-known and a good wristwatch. So I find that very interesting.
And reliable, etc.
But I've said that for them, but I've never taken my own medicine. And I find that's rather odd that I say that to this young lady, because I really think it's the truth. And then I've said something like, if you don't like this watch, have a look at the Cartier watches, and any of the Tanks or any of the popular watches, they're all fabulous. And that tends to be enough advice. And in and amongst the Rolex watches and the Cartier, there's always one that they like. And then I think to myself, hold on, Stephen, that's so narrow-minded and it's so not correct for myself.
Yeah.
So perhaps I'm answering that in context. So it must be very heavy context, yeah. And I also think, what on earth am I saying? Because in my mind, I'm not thinking status, but maybe you're right.
Well, you are, and you're flattering them.
Yes.
So by saying that, because these brands are so strong, both Cartier and Rolex, you're saying to them that what they will hear is you are a person worthy of a Rolex or a Cartier.
So
they will feel very happy that you're recommending those watches. If you'd said, I think you're so-and-so brand, and it was maybe a £300 brand, they might not like that advice because they might feel it doesn't reflect their worth.
Subconsciously, I might be making a status decision, and in my subconscious, I'm doing it on purpose to be nice. Oh, that is rather interesting. Gosh, I haven't.
And it's easy. It's less of an effort to tell someone they should go and look at a Rolex or a Cartier because they are well known.
but I really meant it though. That they might have mentioned another brand, and I've said no, don't get either Rolex or Cartier. And then I think, gosh, I should be paid by Rolex and Cartier. I'm such a strong ambassador for them. Yeah. But yet, I don't apply that to myself. So that's rather interesting. That is right. So that
presumably, I should just say from my reaction to that is because the substitutes you found, you mentioned buying IWC instead.
Yeah.
For you, said more about you.
Yes.
At that time.
Yes.
So you wanted the brand and the watches, of course, to project something at that time when you made those purchases that Rolex weren't giving you, and that's why you didn't ultimately buy the Sea Dweller. That's why brand makes a difference. That's why consistency of brand makes a difference. That's why success at building brand is important. Very important.
Actually, right there, let's chat about brands that we like, because it might lead on to some interesting comments. So Hamish, what brands do you like, and what brands do you aspire to today, would you say?
So, huge fan of Jaeger-LeCoultre still.
Yeah.
Their watches are, very fine Swiss watchmaking.
I can't wait to see your reverse.
And quite expensive. So unfortunately, I can't go out and buy, a brand new JLC at the moment. But there are many in the current range and many over the last 100 years that I would love to own.
Okay.
I'm a big Breitling fan.
Yes.
I have 2 vintage Breitlings in my collection, which I adore both of them. One's a top time and one is a chronomat.
Yeah.
And but similarly, I like a lot of Breitlings in the current collection. We have events with Breitling, and I love them because I love the current range, and I love what the company's doing. I love a lot about the brand.
Right.
I have one vintage Omega and have huge admiration for a lot of vintage Omega, and a small number of modern. I'm not really a speedy guy. Lots of people are, and the Speedmaster range is amazing and enormous. So there is something out for everyone. Something out there for.
I have the Mark II.
So, I hadn't even forgotten you brought that before I said that.
Yeah.
So, and that's a really beautiful example. So it's I am an Omega guy as well. So, and then of the sort of more unusual stuff, again, I'm blessed in this job to see quite a bit of high horology now at the different things we do in Switzerland or in London, and I'm sort of erring more on the super complicated and high craft. So some of the really high craft dials, whether they're really engraved in a certain way or enameled in a certain way. I'm finding myself pulled more towards that. I'm not so into the more industrial design, so I appreciate them, but things like MV&F and the likes don't do it for me so much. But what I'm doing at the moment is trying to be more of that type of brand to see if I like it more. So again, when you explore in a hobby such as this, because there are a lot of great brands out there, I quite like doing my best to get to see and feel the watches from these brands, because even if I don't think I like them, I might like them way more when I actually get them in hand, right? So
one nice thing about this hobby and watches and seeing watches in the media or on a screen, they're always better in the hand, in the flesh, which is a nice way round to have it.
Yeah.
It would be horrible if they always look better in images and in the hand, that they're disappointing. So you like JLC and Breitling. Would you say those are your two? So I'm assuming that you've understood my question as money's no object. Are those two the brands? Are they your favourites?
I mean, it'd be very easy to buy quite a few watches from each.
Yeah.
This afternoon, if I suddenly, and then there's a few other. Well, there's a long list of watches I'd like to have in my possession one day.
Yeah.
Vintage and new. So again, the privilege of seeing so many watches every week is my list of things I'd like to try always gets bigger.
Okay, so I know this is a very cliche question. It's a very obvious question. A Grail watch, or a watch that obviously money no object. If you had to have one special watch, which watch would that be?
So the watch that has kind of been my Grail for a while is actually from Hermes. So it's their moon watch. So it's Arceau de la Lune is the name of the range of watches. And it's got two subdials that rotate. It's very clever, individual movement.
Yeah.
It's quite big. We're having our first event with Hermes very soon, actually, and it's very exciting to build a relationship with that company because it's so famous, and their watch department and range is actually kind of underappreciated in a lot of ways.
Yes.
But they're very serious watchmakers, and they make very individual range of watches. It's cohesive design. They have their own case shape. They have interesting complications, and so again, that actually speaks to my liking something a bit different as a collector as well.
Yeah.
So that watch and that range of watches is my Grail watch, and has been for a few years.
Wow. Okay. I love that kind of answer to the question, because you can imagine that many people will gravitate to the most expensive watch they can think of, but when it's a watch that perhaps doesn't come across as the most expensive watch you can think of, it's just a lovely design.
I mean, it's pretty expensive.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I think new they're about 65.
65. Okay.
So that is an expensive watch.
Okay, and what I will do is I will get an image of that, and I'll plop it into the video right now. Right, so this is your one of your most favourite watches. Is there another watch that would be your favourite?
I mean, there are many, but that's kind of what I just have out there as my Grail.
Okay.
I mean, again, back to Breitling, which is much more affordable. Yeah. They made a Premier with the pistachio dial. Pistachio green dial.
Yes.
It's one of the most remarkable watch dials in the world. It's in the catalogue. It's been sold for 4 years now. The watch is a chronograph.
Yeah.
There's just something about the green of the dial, and when we have our events, I make everyone try it on.
Yeah.
Because it stands out so much.
Yeah.
And I would love that watch, and really I should just sort of take the bullet and try and find one and buy it but yeah.
I love this question, because for me it makes me judge the person a bit in the terms of what I think their personality is like, or what they're like really. I find it a very revealing question. I love it because I find offering your favourite watch or Grail watch is very personal.
Yeah.
If I was to ask myself what my Grail watches are, I think both of them don't exist yet, although they're in the realms of possibility. One of them, I've mentioned it on a video, is an MRG version of the Casio G-Shock King.
Yeah.
So it's basically about 20 years ago, I think it was, that they released a large plastic version of this. It was basically this on steroids.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I think if Casio made an MRG version of that, I think I'd be so excited. It would be so ridiculous. but I thought with a rubber strap and a titanium case and the usual MRG treatment, I would just think to myself, there's no point, collecting watches anymore. This is the top of the mountain. But then for some reason, and this might be horrible, a white gold Richard Mille chronograph. For some reason, I go back to the RM05, which was a 3-hand date. And there was, I think, the RM11, where you might arrive at the thought a chronograph version of that. But one of the Richard Milles that look like the RM11, the RM05 in white gold, a chronograph with automatic, a black rubber strap and a tang buckle, not the deployment buckle, a tang buckle. For some reason, in my mind, those are my two Grail watches, and I think it's such an odd thing to say. An MRG King that doesn't exist, and a white gold RM5, RM11-esque chronograph that I haven't actually seen yet, but in my mind, so those are my two Grails. Now, the RM would be expensive. It would be horrible. It would be, hundreds of thousands of pounds. But the MRG King, that would be, but it'd be a lot more. It would be more affordable than the. But so, what does that say about me? You've offered a Hermes and a Breitling. I've offered Richard Mille and G-Shock. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it's fascinating.
I would love to, in fact, it's a question I think I might ask everyone and maybe create a spreadsheet and enter the and see if I can correlate that information to a personality type. I do not know. Okay, so that's rather interesting. Right. But there's one thing I wanted to ask you, just two more questions. One about what you think about limited editions, and do you think it's a good thing? Do you think it's perhaps gone too far? Are you delighted with it? Is it something that you like? And it's because, once again, just recently I was listening to either a blog to watch, I think it was a blog to watch, and limited editions were mentioned. And I thought to myself, what's my view on limited editions? Now, I shall answer that in a moment, but what do you think about limited editions?
My thinking's changed a bit over time.
Yeah.
But right now, I think they're a complete positive for the industry. And they serve a lot of purposes, different purposes.
Yeah.
Almost all of them are positive.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's changed me from being a bit more skeptical and thinking they were sometimes a bit of a gimmick and sometimes overdone, which is what I might have thought 5 or 6 years ago, is having met so many more enthusiasts and collectors now. Everyone loves them, including me. So if I was consistent and a skeptic and thought, no, they're just a bit of a way for brands to milk XYZ, which is a common criticism of limited editions, people wouldn't love them as much as they do. But by and large, collectors love the idea that something's a limited run.
Yes.
Even if it's a minuscule difference from another watch in the range or in the core collection.
Yeah.
They love knowing that it will come to an end. So once the limited edition is sold out, even if it takes 2 years to sell, they sort of love knowing that watch will no longer be sold, so that people can't then buy it, and they somehow got there early, even if they didn't get there early and they bought it after in a big run. I love what they do for brands. So brands that are savvy use them to build the brand, to build momentum, to build money, to sell a watch for a higher price point because it's limited, gets them the cash to do more of their core business, which I think is very important and not really appreciated enough by critics of limited editions. And I think finally they let brands and collectors take a risk. So if you say, as a brand, I'm going to put something out there, it's a bit wacky, and there's only 100 because I have no idea if anyone's going to like it. And as a collector, if you say, oh, it's a bit wacky, but there's only 100, so if I buy this and I decide after a few months I don't like it, and it's sold out, then maybe I can sell it straight away because someone missed out.
That's a nice aspect.
Or even if I can't sell it straight away because it wasn't that successful, it wasn't that popular.
Yeah.
Someone coming to the brand in a couple of years' time might discover it and think, that's the perfect watch from this brand for me. And there's a small number, and I'll be able to sell it then. So there's all the good reasons I like them.
Okay, because I actually think that I think before I even had this conversation with you, I think my understanding and my view of limited editions was exactly the same.
Right.
For some reason, I think of G-Shock all the time.
Yeah. Well, they do a lot of them.
Yeah, but also they do lots of limited by production.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I think from a business point of view, that makes a lot more sense, because then you don't really have to disclose how many you are making, and then you can announce at your leisure when you're discontinuing a model. But I think you are right. There is something nice about knowing right from the beginning that there's only 50 of these or 100 of these, or if you're Casio G-Shock, 500 is like saying we're only making 50.
Yes,
it's such a small, and there is something quite delightful about that. And over the years I've had a few limited editions, and there is something that feels special. And it makes you feel good, because it makes you feel like you made a good choice. So this watch, as I said earlier, this is the second variant of the watch. The first one was Mercury. This is the Mercury Shadow. Yeah.
The first one, 75 pieces.
Yeah.
Took about a year to sell through.
Yeah.
The second one, the Shadow, took 6 months.
So you've got a nice curve.
So
yes.
What you've seen is, as the watch has been out there in the world, and remember, this is not a brand with any marketing resources. This is a micro brand. They do not spend money on marketing.
Yeah.
But as people have seen the watches, they've sold through. The second one sold through faster, and now, as I said, what they're doing with this model now is marquetry dials and craftsmanship, and it's very interesting. And by definition, every marquetry dial is almost a one-off. So you've now got this. I feel better about my decision to buy it. I feel like my choice is validated because the watch, the limited edition, selling through faster. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Okay. It's because sometimes people don't like limited editions and they think it's a money grab and that sort of thing. I've always thought it provided interest to the customer. And
really.
Because I can also see it from a business point of view. If you commit to making 500 pieces or 100 pieces, and because it is limited edition, because it's different, no one does buy it, it could be, it could be very hard as well. Because if people find out that there's only 100 but only 10 have been sold, that fact alone could switch off something.
Yes.
Where if it was all sold out or there was only 10 left, psychology indicates that you'd want it because it's scarce. But on the whole, a limited edition is something that I quite like. Okay, it leads me on to collaborations. I think I'm a little bit more emotional about collaborations. So first of all, do you like collaborations? Watch collabs.
Yeah, I think that, again, in a similar way, they are a good opportunity for experimentation. A good opportunity to find new customers. And a good opportunity to just provide a little bit of difference for your existing customers as well.
Okay. I think always I see it from a customer point of view and also a vendor or brand point of view. I always think if you have a collaboration with, for example, a celebrity or a sports star, there's a lot of risk there, because if that celebrity or sports star in the future, does something wrong, it could instantly make that the watch or the association a negative. And so I do find that, and also if it has their name on the watch, I think, ooh, that's a little bit, perhaps that doesn't work so much. And also for some reason, so I suppose we're just going to my preference here. From a business point of view, like it being limited edition, I can understand why a collaboration might be very good. So perhaps a watch being collaborated with a car might be very good. I totally get that. But for some reason, I don't want Bugatti on the dial or the case, but I can see that someone really might like that. And I suppose it does individualize that model of that watch. So I suppose when I think it through, I less mind. But I suppose where I end up is that if it's a collaboration and the name's on the watch or the dial, I probably won't go for it. But I think I would like it more if there's the association. So, for example, I love the Daytona, the Paul Newman.
Yeah.
Because his name doesn't feature anywhere near the watch or
nothing to do with it. He just owned one.
I know. So for me, that is the way to do it.
Right.
And the John Mayer, the green dial, I think that's actually very, very cool. I think if John Mayer or Paul Newman was written on the Rolex, it certainly wouldn't be as interesting for someone like me.
But that's just your taste.
Yes, that's my taste.
So
yes,
there's a line of watches that sort of is a collaboration that was famous for Breitling and Bentley.
Yeah.
So they're not collaborators at all.
That's right.
But they were for a very long time. It's the longest running car brand partnership in continuous production.
Yeah.
And the Breitling for Bentley watches had a very specific look.
Yes.
They were very large.
Yes.
And some might say they were a bit gaudy. They're quite flash watches.
Yeah.
A lot of them.
Yeah.
And they, a lot of Breitling collectors and enthusiasts want nothing to do with them. They wouldn't add them to their collection. They wouldn't advertise that they had them.
Right.
They're just not interested. The thing is, they were really successful.
Right.
So people who wanted the association of both brands, whether they were Bentley owners or Bentley enthusiasts, whether they were Breitling first, there was something about that range of watches and that collaboration that worked for many, it's like 20 years.
Yeah.
Right? And so you have to, the thing about collaborations that work is they're attracting a different audience.
Yes. And so from a business point of view, and from a brand point of view, you certainly need to have a wide scope, a wide view of your customer base. And you should be open to all marketing and design opportunities. Yeah, I get
Depending
that.
on your philosophy, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, brands have to have a specific philosophy and a specific point of difference and of all the different ways they can do that. And so they have to be, if they go too far out of their wheelhouse, it can be a disaster. But I like the fact that there's all these examples of partnerships that are surprising. Like one at the moment that comes up is the world of anime, right? Which I know nothing about.
Yeah, I know a little about it.
Almost all the anime watch collabs sell out really successfully because the world of anime and the enthusiasts are so big.
Yeah.
And I actually think it's one great example of where watch companies should be doing way more to tie into other cultural phenomenon like that and just be braver about cultural tie-ins because it brings new people to the watch brand and the watch design.
Yeah. Okay, this nicely brings me on to, I suppose, an end chat in this video, and that is, I suppose then I'm going back to what watches mean to watch collectors, you and I. And I suppose I can start by saying watches has been a thing. It's been a very important part of my life from a very personal point of view. It's watches have given me an interest, a hobby, and I suppose a bit of a purpose. I suppose flicking on the video camera and chatting about wristwatch, requires a little bit more than just a good idea. You have to be passionate about it. Now, when I think about you, I mean, it sounds like watches have been a big part of your life, and it's culminated in you having a full-time occupation in the watch space with the Watch Collectors Club. So I suppose it's a bigger thing for you and myself than we realise. That is, wearing this object around your wrist is Yeah, I suppose it is a little bit more than we realise. Well, for example, it's brought you and I together today, and we've spent the last hour chatting to each other, and all we've really spoken about is wristwatches. We've shown each other watches that we like. We've chatted around, why watches. And, this conversation is making me a lot more respectable of my own watch collection and my own watch journey. That's quite odd, isn't it? That I'm chatting to you, but yet I feel like I'm benefiting.
Well, it makes me very happy because the entire point of the Watch Collectors Club is to help people collect and enjoy their hobby.
Right.
So I spend, day after day trying to think of ways, mostly events, because that's how we're based. We're an in-person and online events company so that people can come together to explore, but also to meet those other people and find that common ground and find that friendship. And one of the funny things, just as a sort of piece of information about how things have changed at the club over time, when we started, both our pre-pandemic test events and our first few events from 2021 onwards, we would find that people would say, spend maybe half their time talking about watches and half their time they'd ask the same old questions, what do you do for a living, where do you live, all that sort of thing. Now, rather remarkably, I think, people come along and pretty much only talk about watches.
That's interesting.
And they talk about not just the watches that are in the room, if we're at a boutique or if we're at a meetup and there's a whole array. They're getting the phone out and they're saying, this is the one I was after, and did you see this one? And there's this conversation about the depth of passion that people display once they have the chance to find other people who are interested. It's just astonishing. And that makes me so happy. I mean, that is what I do it for. That helping people to connect with other like-minded people and then help them learn more about whatever it is they like in the watch world. That's amazing. It's amazing. And we get amazing feedback to say the same thing. Like, I'm so glad you've put this on. Thank you so much. I never knew all these people. I could talk to people about this like this.
So the wristwatch and your interest in wristwatches is a common denominator for friendship with other people, or is the cause of a friendship with another person?
Absolutely, yeah.
Wristwatches is a link to being friends with another human being. It's the entry point to a friendship or a shared interest.
Absolutely, and we have. I'm very pleased to say that in the club we have a group of regulars who come along to a lot of the events, and they know each other well now. And now we're doing the trips, to Switzerland and Dubai, and obviously if you're on a trip with people for however many days, you've got that much more time to have that conversation. So what we're trying to build is a club first. We are inclusive, and where we're succeeding is helping people find those other people to bond with over watches, and learn from each other as well.
Wow, the Watch Collectors Club and wristwatches. So many times I say to myself, why on earth am I spending time with this G-Shock? And then moments I think to myself, how ridiculous. I'm a grown person and I'm obsessing over a G-Shock, but I think it really has benefited me, my life and my purpose. Isn't that strange to say? But I think it probably is very true. Meeting you today, chatting to you today, finding out about the Collectors Club has been really nice, and I've really enjoyed seeing your watches.
Thank you.
It's really made me really appreciate the watches that you've brought, but it's made me it's made me think about you as another person and think this is so interesting. And I love the way that the watches, it makes me appreciate your passion and your interest in wristwatches. And I think it's so cool that you've created the Watch Collectors Club.
Thank you,
Hamish. It's been not what I expected actually, but hopefully this video it's okay. It's been lovely to meet you again, and perhaps we'll do this again.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. It's been great to talk to you and learn more about your collecting as well. And definitely love to do this again, whether we do it in a more exotic location at one of the shows we're both going to, or we are back in London. But happy to do it again.
Great. Hamish, thank you so much.
Thank you.